All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to my channel, Maths Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. We're going to talk about absolute values with equal to sign, or basically equalities. All right. Now, remember in the introduction to this series, I talked about modulus graphs, where I said, for instance, for a modulus graph, let's say at y is equal to 2. So for instance, we have a value here, a, we had another value here, minus a. So, and I told you that if it's for less than, okay, if it's for less than, the answer is equal to minus a less than x less than a. If it's for greater than, I told you the value is going to be x is less than minus a, or x will be greater than a. We talked about these answers in the previous videos, okay? Now, what I want to talk about now is for equal to sign. It's the same thing or very similar, but instead of having range of values here, we're going to be having specific values. So in this case, x will be equal to a, or x will be equal to what? Minus a. Is that making sense? So it follows the same principle, but in this case, instead of having range of values, you're going to just be having two values, or depending on how the question comes. So x will be equal to a, and x will be equal to minus a, all right? So it also follows the same similar 5 rules like the last ones, okay? Similar 5 rules. For the first one, you have to equate the function on the left-hand side to both the positive and negative answer on the right-hand side. So what you do, you have to then equate the function on the left-hand side, okay? Like we did in the other inequalities. If you've not reviewed my previous video, I think it's a good time for you to go back and have a look at it, understand it before coming here so that this will make more sense to you, okay? So to both the positive and negative answers. On the right-hand side. Okay, on the right-hand side. So let's pick an example, like similar to the previous one. I'm going to pick an example and use it to keep on explaining the rules, okay? So let's say we have 2x plus 1. Now this time is equal to 5. It's going to be the same thing. So the answer is going to be 2x plus 1 is equal to 5. And we also have 2x plus 1 will be equal to minus 5. So you see you have both positives and negative on the right-hand side, all right? Then the second step is to solve for x. So you solve the equations. Or I can say solve both equations, okay? To find x. So anyone will be fine to find x. So for the first one now, we have 2x plus 1 is equal to 5. So you take 1 to the other side. So x is going to be 5 minus 1 divided by 2. So therefore, x is going to be 4 divided by 2 will give us 2, okay? For the other one, it's going to be 2x plus 1 is equal to minus 5, okay? So x is going to be minus 5 minus 1 divided by 2. So therefore, x is going to give you minus 5 minus 1 will give you minus 6. Minus 6 divided by 2 will give you minus what? 3. Now, the most important part is that number 3 is that first thing you have to do is that you have to write it in the general formula, right? Or general expression or general way of expressing such answers. So you're going to write your answer by equating x to be equal to a, or x to be equal to minus a, okay? So then, therefore, so in this example now, it's going to be x will be equal to 2, or x will be equal to -3. All right. So this is it. So this is this is the major difference between that for equalities and inequalities. Okay. This step where the answers, how you express the answer. So it's very important you take note of it. All right. So after you've gotten this part, the other step 4 and step 5 are basically the same thing. Is that okay? So number 4 is that you now graph the function to see where the solution is by also equating the function to be equal to 0. So you can now graph the function for this. And you can also test as well if you want to. You can also test, but there's no need of testing because you're not going to get the range of values here. So if it can be equal to 0, does that make sense? Because in this case, it's equality. There's no need for testing. So what you just do then, you just graph in the function. So step 4, you can say no need for testing. Okay. There's no need for testing whether x will be equal to 0. But you can also use it by equating y to get equal to 0 to get the vertex, okay? And that will be very important in the graphing, okay? So you now graph the function. So you graph the function, especially to know where the vertex is, okay? And by equating the y to be equal to 0, okay? And to determine the vertex, y will be equal to what? 0. So in this case now, we're gonna say 2x plus 1 is gonna be equal to 0. So therefore, x is gonna give you -1/2, right? So we can now graph it now. So what you then do is that you then have to have the values for each of them. You just draw the graph, but now you know that the vertex for this function is going to be at -1/2, okay? So we're gonna do this. So we know if this is 0, so let's say this is this point here is gonna be -1/2, okay? So, and let's say, for instance, we're having at y is equal to 5. So let's say this point here is y is equal to 5. Let me make it a little bit clearer here. So that will be easier to see. So let's use maybe color red. So we have, this is 0. Now this is -half. So we're gonna say that, all right, because it's that, we have this and we have that, okay? So at point y is equal to 5, okay? So we can say y is equal to 5. The answer we're gonna get here from this, we determined it to be 2. And the answer we are having here, we determined it to be what? -3. And that will be that for that. So you can see in this case is the same thing. And the same thing, and you can get the same the same answer. All right, and that'll be that for that. All right, and that's how you solve it. So you see, it's exactly the same thing as inequalities. Nothing so much different. You have to know that here there's no need for testing because we're not looking for a range of values. We're looking for 2 values, and also take note of how you write the answer while equating it. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to go to the next video. And the next video, we're going to solve more examples on this. I'm going to pick like maybe 2 or 3 examples on this, and we're going to solve it. So I'm not going to beat this topic a lot more because if you understood how to solve inequalities, it's going to be the same principle we're going to use in this place. All right. Okay. So yes, I will see you in the next video. If you have any question, feel free to let me know, and you can ask me any questions, send me an email, or you can drop it in the comment section. Thank you very much. So I'll see you soon.